Mr. Mamelon, oh yeah. DJ Proof, Pamchina, Bauzi, Guri Pat, Pararantem, Ayuaka Pinganipin, Yedu, Tasibisa, Yechinja, Sensiretio, Ayuaka Bata, Wakabata, Ambaoja Polangoma, Rambaoja Polangoma, Sensiretio, Nepenyurevano. Ndokwatinodzinzwa nhau dzacho kuchiridzwa mimanzi yacho DJ Proof ndatiwedzera mawadzi DJ Proof audze munhu wese kundovhota ngapinde mukomana.
Good morning, good afternoon, Zimbabwe. Thank you so much for joining. Of course, I know it's a good evening in Zimbabwe because I think it's 9:30 p.m. there. And here in North America, it's going towards 2:30 p.m., which means it's still a very good afternoon. Of course, we know what is happening in Southern Africa, in the country north of the Limpopo, South Africa. They are having a watershed a landmark election there. And as Zimbabweans, we are interested in knowing what is going on in South Africa. And of course, today, your radio station, Change Radio, has brought in people that are in South Africa. We are honored to have Dr. Mahembe and Mr. Trust Ndlovu, the former chairperson of Triple C South Africa. And they are here to just share with us what is going on there. I am interested in knowing what is going on in the South African election, and I know you are also interested in knowing the same. Of course, there are a lot of intricacies that we are going to discuss there. But before I go any further, let me ask my panelists here to introduce themselves and take a few minutes to greet you, our viewers and listeners. And while they are doing that, all of us who are here, please let's share the video with as many people as possible so that we can have a good discussion. Over to you, Dr. Mahembe.
Yeah, good evening or good afternoon, depending where you are. My name is Mahembe. I'm a development economist based here in South Africa. I'm also a lecturer at the University of South Africa, which is UNISA, and also I'm also a development economist in our company called Underhill Corporate Solutions. And it's exciting to be here in South Africa and also to discuss the watershed election currently taking place in the nation of South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mahembe. And we appreciate the analysis that you put on social media that people are looking at right now. And I'm sure they are also interested to know your views on the South African election. Mr. Ndlovu, please take a few minutes to introduce yourself and greet our viewers and listeners.
Good day, everyone, all Zimbabweans, wherever you are. And my name is Trust Ndlovu, as indicated. I'm just an activist in the opposition politics from Zimbabwe. And we are following the developments in South Africa. We are following with keen interest what is happening in South Africa. And I will be very happy to share with you my views and opinions, my observations, what we are seeing, what we are witnessing. And as we speak, the closing time, the cutoff time has just arrived, but people are still allowed to go on casting their votes. There are long queues. There are few isolated instances here and there. But let me leave that to the next question, or when we will be talking in details. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. And then Mr. Trust Ndlovu, I'm just an activist. He is not just an activist. He's a very important person in Zimbabwe's politics who has done a lot, contributed a lot to our struggle. So we welcome you both gentlemen, and thank you for agreeing to come here at a short notice. We'll get right into it so that we quench the thirst of our listeners here. They want to know what is happening. Dr. Mahembe, just tell us about what is going on in South Africa right now. You are in South Africa, you are seeing the voting environment and how people have been turning out, the turnout. If there have been issues, just give us a general overview of what you have observed.
Thank you. So my overview is based on, firstly, what I have managed to go. Both I've gone out early in the morning, I've gone out in the afternoon, and I've gone out also in the evening. So in the morning, the queues were very long. And then in the afternoon, around Pretoria area, the queues were fairly stable, shorter in the afternoon. But in some polling stations right now, as I speak, the queues were so long. And so I'm not sure, is it because in some instances it's because the process is longer, or people, a number of people decided to come later the other in the morning. I'm not sure. But I think what I've witnessed is that there are polling stations which are right now, which have some even 1,000 or more potential voters who are still outside, and they've now been called to come in the premises so that they can be able to prepare for the cutoff time, which is 9 p.m. But what I heard is that everyone who was at the polling station by 9 p.m., they will be allowed to vote even after the cutoff time. So my understanding is that right now is that voting is still taking place in many polling stations where the queues were longer. And so that's one. But on the another aspect is, as well, I've also taken pleasure to watch closely through the news. The news feeds are coming in. Even some are reporting from the announcement center and so forth. And what has really impressed me is that even the electoral management body, they've been able to update how far they are, the incidents they were having, and how they were able to resolve them, where they were able to resolve, and so forth. So I would say it's a victory for democracy, in my view. Lastly, I also just wanted to extend that even on the TV, I've heard the leader of the opposition, who is the EFF leader. He had already indicated that what he has seen is that the electoral management body is doing what it can, which is good. And also, he has also indicated that even his campaigns, the way he was never hindered at all, he managed to reach the people he wanted to reach. Therefore, he would accept the result. I've also heard the leader of another opposition, the biggest opposition, who is the DA leader, John Serezen. He has also said similar things, that he thinks that the electoral management body has handled this election fairly, and he would also accept the result. It doesn't matter how it will go, but you will accept. So in conclusion of this aspect, I just want to say, generally, it seems to suggest that yes, there are some hiccups there and there, like what my leader Trussell said, but generally people seem to be voting smoothly, yes, with some bit of long queues, but also there is also an acceptance by the opposition leaders that this election is being run in a free and fair environment.
Wow, thank you very much for that update. Coming to you, Mr. Trust and Ndlovu, there were issues to do with Jacob Zuma Mkondo Sizwe party. I'm not even sure what's going on right now. Is Jacob Zuma on the ballot box? And can you also, as you give your highlights of what is going on in South Africa, can you also tell us who is on the ballot paper for one Mkondo Sizwe and also for DA? Because I thought there was a coalition of some sort between or among DA and other political parties in South Africa. If you can enlighten us on that as you give us your overview.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Soswe. I would like to concur with everything that Dr. Mahembe has just said and observed. It is similarly happening all over in South Africa. And, you know, we're talking about 23,292 polling stations across this country. And out of those polling stations, only few reported glitches, like one in Soshanguve, but it has been sorted. It was about power outage. And there's one also in Togoza where people were being impatient, but the IEC quickly came in and resolved that. There was also an issue of snake queues in places like KwaMashu, KZN, and in Cape Town, and in the big city of Durban. But all that have been attended. And what is quite interesting and makes me happy is that the IEC is showing competency. It is responding to all the minor challenges that are happening in a big. You remember that we have about 27.79 million voters, registered voters, and the turnout seems to be to have come big because, like Dr. Mahembe indicated, in the morning there were long queues. In the afternoon, kind of people were not there. There were shorter queues, but afternoon, it seems people had told that most of people had planned to come in numbers in the last hours. But as we see things, people have voted in big numbers. The other things that I've observed, all the big four political parties, namely the MK, the ANC, the DA, the EFF, they are working so nicely. There is no way where you hear even in the complaints the people blaming the ANC in comparison to our Zimbabwean situation, where you find the ruling party will be having issues all the time, and it will be siding with the electoral management body. But here you find the ANC being an equal partner. Whenever there are issues, the ANC is freely criticized, and they are also having issues with the minor issues, of course, complaints. So that's the democracy to me, in my view. Coming to the issue of who is on the ballots, the DA is represented by John Steenhuisen. I just forgot the name of the person who is representing MK because there have been changes. Remember, the Concord disqualified Mr. Jacob Zuma from representing the MK as a candidate in the last minutes. So there is a new name there. But the other thing is that Mr. Zuma remains the leader of MK in terms of their political mobilization, their voter mobilization. They're still using him as the key figure to mobilize people. And I've just seen queues in Durban where they were ANC and MK people side by side chanting, singing. You would think. And the other observation, I know that rules are not the same, but you find that it's not an issue to wear your EFF T-shirt. It's not an issue to wear your ANC or your MK regalia. It is allowed. People, they are freely doing it. Those who wear it. So that's another thing that I've observed. And I also realized that the IEC, the electoral body, is quite independent. They attend even the smallest issues that are reported. Every night, like today, early this evening, we've seen a media press conference that the IEC held. They did try to address how far the voting process has gone, and the journalists were free to ask questions, and most of those questions were clearly answered by the IEC chief. So these are some of the things that we are witnessing here in South Africa. And the voting are still going on despite the cutoff date of 9 p.m. The IEC has allowed that everyone who is on the queue is going to be allowed to have his or her opportunity to exercise his or her democratic right by voting. Thank you, Chief.
Wow. Thank you, Mr. Ndlovu. To those that are just joining us, we are discussing the South African elections, the landmark watershed elections, a very important election. And we are joined by two residents of South Africa that have been seeing, that are on the ground, that have observed and seen what is going on in South Africa today. And we are going to talk to them, and you hear everything that is going on. So please do continue to share this video with as many people as possible. And when these two gentlemen leave, we'll also have others that will be coming on at the top of the hour as we continue with this conversation. We are bringing you this live as a current affairs program by Change Radio, because we want to keep you informed of what is happening. Let me go on now to Dr. Mahembe. Dr. Mahembe, we have Malema. We all know Malema, and we have Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, and we also have Jacob Zuma, who apparently, as Mr. Ndlovu said, is not on the ballot box. But we saw these three big political parties filling up stadiums a few days before this election. Is this a three-horse election?
Yeah, very good question. Thank you. I think let me just clarify. I think President Zuma is actually remains on the ballot for the MK, but he is not allowed to go to parliament. So he's just because he's just the face. Like I think in Freedom the Party, they also even have a face of their former president who is late, but he is on the ballot. So I think being on the ballot and going to parliament are two different things. So just a clarity on that. And then I think back to the main question. What I'm seeing is that this 2024 election is so different from the 2019 election because there are so many parties now, which I think brings a lot of dynamics in the sense that they definitely have a potential of some voters who were never aligned to any political party like your EFF, your DA, and ANC. I think that also might be one of the factors why we are seeing a very huge voter turnout. It could be because there are now new players and some who were like sitting on the fence and were not sure where to go. They are coming in. But the real issue is how this whole election would pan out. In my view, it will be a lot of sharing of votes or a splitting of votes. For example, obviously, ANC is going to lose some votes because of the former President Zuma. So there is that dynamic. But at the same time, again, if you look at the messaging of EFF and the messaging of Umkhonto weSizwe, they almost have the same message of this radical economic transformation, nationalism, socialism. So you might find that EFF might lose some votes because of Umkhonto weSizwe. The end of Umkhonto weSizwe might affect EFF, especially in the KZN and other and Gauteng. And we also think that the smaller parties who are coming in might also eat some votes from the DA. So yeah, it's going to be a very interesting affair. And I think one of the key issues which many commentators were talking about is this the year where ANC might lose the majority or become less than 50%. I think the jury is still out there, but there is a possibility that this election we might not have a clear winner or a dominant party as we used to have. But when we look at it overall, you would also think that I think ANC, because it's a ruling party, there's always those issues of incumbents. When you are already there, there are some benefits there. I still believe that ANC will definitely go down below the 57.something%. Possibly, they might go around, in my view, around 52, 53%. If they do very well, they might go 55%. But yeah, it's really a dog-eat dog out there.
So Dr. Mahembe, I mean, you jumped on to another question that I was going to ask, later on in the program. But since you have already opened the Pandora's box, we'll go on there. So are you predicting an ANC victory? Because some of us were actually thinking that this is the end of ANC. Or if they are going to be in there, they will not have a majority.
Yeah, like I said, the jury is still out. But I think the end of many parties can work to the advantage of ANC, or it can work to the disadvantage. So, in other words, if the different parties begin to split votes, it might work to the advantage of ANC. For example, when you look at the DA, what the DA did was they came up with a 10-party, they call it a multi-party charter, and then they had a pre-election agreement. And that pre-election agreement was that they will work together, they will do their messaging together, they will not fight together, fight each other, and then after the election, they might form a coalition. But if you look at that particular charter with 10 parties, it does not, those 10 parties, it does not include EFF. And it does not include Umkhonto weSizwe, and it might. I think it doesn't include COP as well. So because of that dynamic, you can also tell that it means EFF will have a standalone fight, and MK will have a standalone fight. So that way, for me, it becomes like almost like a split of votes. And when something like that happens, it's not always sort of benefits the ruling party. So in my view, it might not be this election where ANC might get less than 50%.
Okay. So that may be very disappointing to the people of Zimbabwe, because some even saying South Africa, Zimbabwe is on the ballot box in South Africa. As I go to Mr. Trust Ndlovu, can you just tell us the environment again? I'm going back to the environment, because even when I'm here, I keep seeing things coming in on social media saying there's something here that is saying ZANU ANC has been given a rigging template by ZANU PF. Are we seeing a situation where ZANU has extended its influence beyond the borders? Is ZANU PF ZANUizing the South African election? Are you seeing any of that? Because Mr. Ndlovu, I think you saw a few days ago, we also saw a video of South African police that had seized ballot papers, and they were carrying them away. That's ZANU PF way of doing things. Is Mr. Ndlovu still there?
Thank you very much for raising those those views. Look, first of all, let me just also start by clarifying, adding to what Dr. Mahembe was saying. And as much as we know that Mr. Zuma's face remains on the ballot, but there should be a particular person that will go to the parliament. Look like yes. In the case of EIFP, Mr. Shavisa is going to parliament if he wins. So it doesn't matter whether they're using Mr. Mangosuthu Buthelez's face. But let me quickly rush to the issue that you have just asked me. Look, there's something strange about the ANC. The ANC, you may find that in principle, because they are bound to support the other liberation movement, they come out supporting ZANU-PF. But you have, rumor is saying that more than 50% of people in the ANC, they don't subscribe to the politics of ZANU-PF. And we have some of the people, some of the national leaders, even NEC members in the ANC, who share with us in the background to say, no, you guys, you think we like what ZANU-PF is doing. So ZANU-PF is trying to befriend, to sample to the party that is shaming, that is behind the scene condemning what they are doing. Yes, we got other people who are like Mbalula, the general secretary, who are very passionate about ZANU-PF. We understand those dynamics. But then the other thing is there are very minor glitches where you find that there are just criminal activities which are not engineered by ANC, where you find perhaps ballot papers being tampered with by individuals. And those people were quickly arrested. This is not what we have seen in the 2023 harmonized elections in Zimbabwe. Instead, you would see observers being arrested and harassed, not the people who were actually manipulating rigging processes. We didn't see any of those people being arrested. But here, when something is, these are what I can call isolated instances, very minor for at least up to now, what we know. But coming to the issue of trying to analyze who may come out victorious in these elections is very difficult. Many opinion polls analysts have already indicated that it's very, very difficult to say that the ANC is going to lose or is going to win. The ANC still maintains its traditional base against all odds so far. It still have its traditional base. So if you talk of KZN, you will have, of course, the MK, which have gained momentum. But that momentum, you must understand that it's mostly regionally based, where in the same region you will have IFP, which use also the politics of the region to gain support. And you will also have other two competing parties. The EFF also is going to eat the ANC. You cannot rule it out. But what can be clear to all of us is that it is possible that in certain provinces, the ANC will not be able to get 50 plus 1%. Then they will be forced to go into coalition. But overall, nationally, it is my view that the ANC is likely to maintain its national dominance against all odds, because there are very few parties which are nationally based. Even the EFF, although they might be gaining, but they have worked very hard. We've seen their presence, but we have also seen the resistance that they are getting. I was watching their campaigns in places like in Limpopo, as far as Guyana there. You will see just a few individuals trying to rally behind them, but the majority were resisting them. So Limpopo, to me, it is likely to remain in the ANC against all. So is Free State and Northwest and perhaps and Eastern Cape. But we have, of course, places like Gauteng. Gauteng is going to be a killer place where we up to now we don't know who is going to emerge with huge numbers. But most probably where the ANC will lose will be following with will lose with small margin. That's our view. Somebody was saying to me when I was giving this analysis, saying maybe it's because I support the ANC. No. I don't support the ANC.
I'm already seeing that on the comments, even in the groups where I'm posting, people have already said Dr. Mahembe is an ANC supporter. And now he's also saying
not at all. Not at all. Okay. Not at all. The ANC is likely, if the ANC lose, the ANC may be beaten. If you check in Gauteng, the EFF is likely to dominate in Gauteng. But my question is, with how with how much margin will the ANC lose? That is where we are looking at. Thank you.
Okay.
Let me come in briefly there, Mambo.
Okay. Yes.
Yes,
Please go ahead.
I share the same with my leader Trust. I think what I've
Because you
said. I
both
think
support ANC.
wait, wait,
That's why you share
wait.
the same.
No, it's that's not true. Wait, the issue is we have to look at trends. When we do some bit of forecasting, we have to look at trends. But what I've posted before is that this election will confirm ANC as a raw party. And I think it's a very significant point because ANC will not win majority in Western Cape, which is also a richer province with the West Cape Town. ANC would not have a majority in Gauteng, which is a very, very populous and also rich province with the Pretoria and Johannesburg and Ekurhuleni. And ANC definitely might not win KZN. So then out of 9, if we take away these 3, we are now left with raw provinces like Mpumalanga, Limpopo, Northwest, and so forth. So for me, it does not look well for a party, a ruling party, to be just to be in the peripheral, in the raw areas. Which, for me, like I said, it might be going the same route as ZANU-PF, to be removed from towns to become a raw party, which I think in my honest view, it might not be enough to take them out of power completely, but it will be an embarrassing situation, in my view.
Okay. All right. We've just been joined by another doctor here. Professor, thank you for joining. And I also know that you have other people that are waiting to come on board. If you can tell the people here to look forward to those people so that the program will continue. But while you are here, we want to hear what you think. What of what has been going on. You are in Cape Town. How did you see the elections there? What's the environment? Are we seeing any police fighting with the people, running after people, beating people? What we've seen in Zimbabwe? What's the temperature there in Cape Town?
Thank you very much, Chief, and thank you, viewers and listeners in all platforms that we have as Change Radio. Obviously, people, you know me, Change Radio, DJ Pro for Change Radio, and I work for Change Radio. Obviously, I am in Cape Town, and to answer your question, Chief, I want to use Jacob Zuma's language that I heard that few days ago when he was interviewed. He said that there is democracy within democracy.
So now we have a Jacob Zuma, the supporter. That's good. We are now balanced.
Yeah. So you know, Chief, my work thing, like I work for a radio, so I have to take all the views from all the people that were contesting in the election. But just to answer your question before we go into those to delve into those details, but obviously why I said there's democracy within democracy, I wanted to speak in terms of the police chasing around people being frog marched to elections and all those things that we we witness in some countries, obviously such as Zimbabwe. That was not happening in Cape Town. Obviously, I really do not know what the Electoral Act of South Africa states. Basically, I haven't really wanted to vex much on it, because obviously what we have witnessed here is that you see some people with some small tents around close to the voting station or at the entrance of the voting station, or political parties. In fact, not what we have seen in Zimbabwe, where you see FAS is the only one that is close, and anyone who is close will be chased, the chimbom goats and stuff. Here we see EFF, we see more probably the most the 3 or 4 big parties in South Africa, you witness them at the entrance of polling station. I had the privilege of moving around with with my family around the other polling stations around here, and we have seen, and I went as far as the best way they call white votes in Sea Point, in areas like Sea Point and Cape Town, the CBD, and the environment was just calm, chief, and everything went well. But what I just wanted also to add, I think, in what my colleagues were saying here, Dr. Mahembe and Mr. Trustinglow, is that the general populace, this is the people who are speaking around. It's not like my view. The general populace is that, or even the statistics that came out a few days ago state that ANC will not be able to garner 50% vote. That's the analysis of people around, and in that fashion, they're saying that it will have to rely now on coalitions that will make them a government of the day come the 10th of June. But now, if that is the way out, now it's I don't know the groundwork of an ANC or the groundwork of other political parties. As you know, there are other small and big parties that have already formed a coalition of 7 political parties, and I would want to know where the ANC were going to snatch that vote. The only way that we think is that maybe ANC, if they can get at least 45 and above, they will be able to find one political party or 2 small political parties that do a coalition. The worst case scenario is when the ANC go below the 45%, which they will need at least 6% from, as much as most of the political parties here. The small parties, if they get 1% or 2%, that would be rich for them. So it will need more than one political party from that coalition, where obviously those more than 4 or 5 political parties will come with their own demands. So in this situation now, Chief, in ending, small political parties in this current scenario where we are here in South Africa have got the upper hand of choosing what they want. If the election of ANC does not get to at least 45%, because now the power is in their hands. And the smallest party, because everyone is looking for those coalitions and to make sure that they are the government of the day for the next 5 years. I thank you for now.
Okay, thank you, DJ Prof. Can you confirm whether there are other people that are still going to join us in the program after this guest, so that I know how to budget the time?
So there is a guest that have confirmed to come to us, but what we can just do, Chief, I think, if as far as Dr. Mahembe and Mr. Trustinglow are here, we can just confirm with him or come with his idea, so that we can see if we can excuse Dr. Mahembe and Mr. Trust if the person comes in. But if not, then we can exhaust our questions to them.
No, find out from him, because we still have 17 more minutes to the program, to finish the program. Perfect. So do find out and then text me. Going to Mr. Trustinglow. Oh no, let me go to Dr. Mahembe first. Dr. Mahembe, this is a tough one. A lot of people are saying Zimbabwe is on the ballot box in South Africa, in the South African election, which means Zimbabweans are expectant of the results that are going to come out. Some really want ANC to fall for the obvious reasons that you are going to explain, and some would even still celebrate if South Africa doesn't fall, but we end up with a coalition government. To what extent, Dr. Mahembe, does the South African election affect the Zimbabwean political scenario?
Yeah, thank you. I think you are right. That is a very difficult question. Ma'am, it's true that Zimbabwe, the Zimbabwe situation is on the ballot box, uh, partially because South Africa has housed a lot of Zimbabweans. So because of that, the implications are too obvious. Secondly, I think if one looks at the whole SADC region, South Africa is the only country which enacted a law of some sort to give a special dispensation to the whole nation to say you can come. That was in 2007. And then they opened up their country to 2009. And then, so because of that, everyone would want to know, can that special dispensation continue after the election or not? So it's a very important one. But also, South Africa is also the big guy in SADC. As a big brother, if a party comes into power and that party changes the immigration laws or their foreign policy against Zimbabwe, it might also affect. So the dynamics are these. There are some parties who are really who were campaigning. Their campaigning message were anti-foreigner, and those kind of xenophobic kind of policies or pronouncements. These are like your action essay by I think Mahembe Mashaba, and I think Mackenzie also that kind of very too hard on foreigners. But what I've seen is that as the election got closer and closer, the anti-foreigner kind of messaging was a bit toned down in my own analysis. And then when we look at the bigger political parties like your EFF, DA, ANC, and maybe partially Umukono Sizwe, I have seen that those parties were really their foreign policy were not radical. So in the event that there's a coalition between ANC, EFF, or ANC, DA, I would not think that they will be really anti-foreign or anti-Zimbabwe, so to speak. But what normally happens is, I think DJ Prof was very right, where the smaller political parties who are very radical, if they come in, I'm sure that the foreign policy might harden a bit, or their treatment of foreigners might harden a bit. But lastly, on the same point, I also want to believe that I think as Zimbabweans, we also need to really look beyond ANC, beyond EFF, beyond what. Because there is no foreign government who would be good to us or come to build our nation or deliver freedom to us. I think at the end of the day, what happens in South Africa would necessarily benefit South Africa. I think we also need to come to a point where whether it's ANC or so forth, we actually have to maybe confront our own issue, because once we subcontract our freedom to another foreign power, to another country, what have we done? We have to sort of like subcontracted our freedom, and they say, if only South Africa can help us, if only SADC can help us. Yes, they can. But at the end of the day, we actually masters of our own destiny, in my view.
Okay, thank you very much. I think you did your best there, Mr. Trust Ndlovu. The impact of this election on the on Zimbabweans, and also lessons learned. What Zimbabwe can learn from the South African election.
Thank you, Mambo Chief. Look, let me first add to what Dr. Mahembe has been saying. To me, I think my fellow citizens in Zimbabwe who equate ZANU-PF with ANC, they are giving ZANU-PF a credit which it does not deserve. There's no way ZANU-PF can be the same with the ANCs. ANC so far, despite its own challenges, they've managed to maintain democracy in this country. They've managed to maintain independence of state institutions. They've managed to change governance several times, democratic space. They've managed to allow the independence of IEC, public Chapter 9 institutions also to operate independently. This is quite different from our situation in Zimbabwe. Even the way the elections are organized in South Africa is quite different. So I think we must not credit the ZANU-PF by equating it with the ANC. That's my view. But going forward, going on the issue of the impact the South African elections will have in Zimbabwe, yes, obviously, the outcome is very important to the neighboring countries, as we know that South Africa is a giant in the economy in SADC, and in Africa, of course, as a whole, but in particular in SADC. So if we are going to have a change of government of the ANC, say we have the EFF, we know the policies of the EFF, the 7 cardinal points of the EFF, where the first one is the issue of the land question, that they must appropriate land without compensation, and that they have to make sure that all companies are brought under the state. In other words, they will nationalize banks, mines, and stuff like that. That on its own, it will impact on the investment. It will impact not only in South Africa, but it will also impact in the region. It will remain to be seen how they will actually keep the captains of industry in this country, how they will harmonize their relations, their foreign policy in order to accommodate the business in this country, so that the business maintains this economy, which is very important to our country, which is very important to our neighbors. Also, the processes, if the SADC observers and other international observers come out and declare the elections as free and fair, that will be a learning lesson also to our Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, to our ZANU-PF-led election process, to say, look, anyone next door here, your big brother or the bigger sister has managed to run elections for more than 27, nearly 28 million people registered voters. I'm not sure what the turnout will be like, but it will be a demonstration of the smooth sailing process of running elections in a democratic way. And the SADC observers, international observers who are in this country, they are the pronouncement of those elections as free and fair will have that impact to the neighboring democracy, like in our country. So really, there is an interest from the neighboring countries, not only Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe in particular, because I want to believe that most of for people, in particular young people, are present in this country in huge numbers, seeking for greener pastures. So that we are following these elections with keen interest, and the outcome also. That also for me, any change of a government, let's say it is the coalition is going to be led by DA, for example. We all know the policies of the DA. They represent white interest in terms of economy. And that is also going to have a negative impact in terms of the leftist wing democratic institutions or parties. So we are very interested, and we are following as if it is as if South Africa is part of Zimbabwe. Thank you, Chief.
All right, thank you. We are beginning to round up now. We still have 10 more minutes. I know a lot of people are watching, and by the way, we are live here on Change Radio Facebook. We are also live on Change Radio YouTube, Paul Mazore's page, and many other Facebook pages. I think we are live on 6 pages right now. But the DJ Prof, as I come to you. So I'm gonna ask every one of you to make a prediction, and then I'll ask you a question. So DJ Prof, I want you to talk about Mahembe. We haven't spoken about him, and I'm very interested in that guy. Is he on the ballot box? What do you know about him? How is he doing? How do you think he is going to do? And then the question that I'm going to ask everyone, the prediction. Do you think ANC is going to get a majority, or we are going to end up with a coalition government in South Africa?
Thank you so much, Chief. So let me start with Maimane's question. So how is he doing? I think, like I said earlier on, I'll repeat the same thing, that I think Paris, the likes of Maimane and Wanebora, in that 1% or 2% that is going to get, that I predict that Maimane is going to get, is going to be a game changer in terms of the coalition. And I think in this, what I'm saying now, I'm actually amalgamating the first question and the second question together. I'm foreseeing a coalition government in South Africa. Why I'm saying I'm foreseeing the coalition government in South Africa? Because I'm talking from the historical percentage of ANC in 2019, when they garnered 58%, without all these problems, without all these Zuma factors. And the statistics that came out, I think it was done by Statistic Barometer or something like that. But it was a prediction of 2023 and 2024. Yes, ANC gained a bit from the 2023 that they expected to do that. But remember, there are socio-economic issues that were used by obviously opposition political parties, from the youngest one to the oldest one that you might think, which is DA. They were using all these issues that ANC had failed for the past 5 years that they promised the people, including some of the natural or man-made things that came out during that process, that tainted, or if I can say, disturbed people social and political and economic well-being of people around. So Mmusi Maimane is doing well, in a sense that if one political party, or ANC in particular, does not reach or does not garner 50.50 plus 1%, then that's where you see the powers of the likes of Mmusi Maimane. But on the ground, we are not seeing much activity. Obviously, there were few things that were happening in his area in Joburg, but here in Cape Town, we are not. Yeah. So like I told you earlier on in the afternoon, I drove around. I only saw one twin cab with Bossa, different from the Patriotic Alliance, because you see a number of them. The ACP, whatever, the church, the Christian base, you see them a lot around because they are more based in Cape Town. But for Bossa, yeah, obviously is a well level-headed person and a significant game changer. Come the results that does not give outright majority to one political party. So the prediction for me, I've been predicting, and I've been saying to people that ANC is not going to get 50 plus 1%. So my prediction for ANC, it's ranging from 45%, actually from 43% to 47%.
Wow, wow. Thank you very much, Prof, for that. I really wish that it comes out like that because I'm one of those people, even though I should be here as a neutral person, but I'm still Zimbabwean. I really want to see ANC falling. I want to see ANC not gaining a majority. I don't care if they are listening or not. I don't care if they align me to a political party in Zimbabwe and they say, "Oh, you wanted us to fall." That's exactly those are my feelings, and I'm sure I have a right to those feelings because I certainly believe that South Africa has contributed to the suffering of the Zimbabwean people. They have supported ZANU-PF, and they've kept ZANU-PF literally in power in Zimbabwe. So, yeah, Mr. Trust Ndlovu, ungakuluma, just talk to everyone in South Africa and those in Zimbabwe. Your prediction first, do you think ANC is going to get a majority rule, or we are going to end up with a coalition? And then your question, as you predict, what does a coalition government or the absence of an ANC completely, which means I know you don't agree with that because you are an ANC supporter. So maybe the absence of ANC is not even in your mind. But in the unlikely event that we have Umkhonto weSizwe or Malema in power in South Africa, what does that mean to the Zimbabwean political scenario? No ANC.
Okay. Well, thank you, Chief.
And then please speak in the way as well as as much as you can.
Oh, okay, ngiyabonga. Hayi okokuqala nje ngifuna ukwazisa abantu bakithi babekwazi ukuthi umbuso waka ANC nombuso wakaMalema nombuso ka-MK ngabantu abaphuma embizeni eyodwa noma ebhodweni elilodwa. Uma singathatha ukubheka ama-policies wawo awahlukananga kakhulu in terms of foreign policy yabo ezoba khona. Umehluko wabo nje ukuthi bonke bafuna ukubusa. Phela ubaba uZuma usasho namanje ukuthi yena ungu-ANC. Okuchaza ukuthi khona yena ama-policies akhe asafana nawaka-ANC. So ungena kwaZuma kwa-MK kuyafana nokuthi kungene e-ANC. uMalema umnumzana Malema nguye ongaletha umehluko ngoba ukhuluma ngama-7 cardinal points akhe lawa ama-7 cardinal policy wakhe lawa. Ngithe uma ngithi ngithatha kwabheka ngabona ukuthi hayi ngempela kuzoba nomehluko ngoba yena akancengi indaba yomhlaba akangingizi lapho vele baqinisile uma bangangena bayawuthatha lo mhlaba ngalendlela abachaza ngayo. Okwesibili bayafuna futhi ukuthi bathathe ama-mine ba-nationalize ama-mine nama-banks namanye amashishini wamabhizinisi amakhulu ukuthi aranwe ugovernment abe phansi kwahulumeni. Yebo phela kuhle konke lokho kodwa ke ngicabanga ukuthi kumele kuyenziwe ngendlela enobudlelwano obuhle nalabo abaphethe umnotho walelizwe. Ngoba uma kungathathwa ubudedengu kungayenziwa ngendlela ebudedengu careless lokho kuzokwenza ukuthi abaphethe umnotho babaleke. Ukubaleka kwabo ngeke ngalalela nje abantu abarana amabhizinisi la eMzansi. Bathi bona uyabona uma uzo investor kumabhizinisi awafana ne-mining unga expect inzuzo kusasa. Into engakuthathela mhlawumbe i-period ye-generation, i-period ye-30 years ukuthi ubone ama-spin-offs investment e-mining. So uma ningaphazamisa nje or nidisturb i-running ye-mining ngendlela mhlawumbe yokuthatha yokuqhwaga nje, uyabona isiqhwaga ukuthatha ngenkani, ningavumelananga ukuthi asihleleni kahle sithole input or i-buy in yalaba abaphethe umnotho. Ngempela lelizwe leli lizosala linama ghost town, sizobaleka lala kule lizwe leli. So ngaleyo ndlela leyo mina if I go back to the issue of predictions, it is one of the most difficult. I've already alluded that it's one of the most difficult thing to predict this time who is going to be a winner. But the most likelihood is that the ANC is likely to drop. But their drop, for me, it ranges from 45 to 52 or 53%. That's my prediction of the ANC. The reasons, my reasons are not very far from what other people have been saying. The ANC, despite the criticism, despite people crying all over, national cry over the ANC, but if I go around in the South African metro places, I realize the same people who are criticizing the ANC, they say, but we are going to vote for them. Yes, we can't. EFF is good to remain there. Umalema right, ahlale opposition khona lapha. Umalema right, kodwa singafaka umalema madoda siphelile la eMzansi siyalimala. Abantu bayakhuluma. Even the youth, I've tried. I'm not all, of course. There are certain diehard members of the EFF who will not talk like that, but we have a general cross-section of young people who feel that Malema is not ready to be the president of South Africa. And going to this issue, I keep on emphasizing the ANC's the traditional base. It is still going, it is still working for them. There are people, the people who will make a party win in this country are not the members of a political party, are the general people who don't even follow politics sometimes. Those people, despite the hardships, they still have that disease of trying to vote the party that brought freedom in this country. That's my problem. The problem I have, that the ANC is likely to come back. If it falls around 45%, between 45 and 50% to 52 or 53%. That's my prediction. I forgot the other part of your question, Mr. Chief.
You answered both questions very well. To those that were listening, Mr. Ndlovu was actually saying in Ndebele that the difference between ANC and Umkhonto weSizwe is very minimal. That if Jacob Zuma's party was going to win, there will not be many drastic changes in terms of policy formulation. But if Malema's party does win and he doesn't give Malema a chance at all, if Malema was going to win, then you get in with his 7 points, and one of them, the major one, is of land appropriation, where they want to appropriate land without compensation, Mugabe style. Because of that, Mr. Ndlovu doesn't see EFF coming to victory in South Africa because they have a lot of opposition. But he does predict that ANC is going to win. If it falls, it will just fall short of the majority. And then we go to Dr. Mahembe. Your prediction, do you think South Africa is going to lose its majority? Or as an ANC supporter, as people are saying, you still think that they are going to clinch the majority? And if they don't get the majority and we end up with a coalition government in South Africa that has Malema, that has the DA, and that has other players. What do you think? That's how is that going to impact on South Africa? And I'm still thinking that Mahembe is a very strong player in South African politics. If you can comment on how you think he is going to do in this election.
Okay, thank you. Let me end up by the prediction, but I think maybe my explanation will lead to the prediction as we discuss. Yes, my money, I think I definitely agree with the DJ Prof. My man is going to be a big player. Firstly, because of his name under DA, he has been in politics for a number of years, and because of that, I think his name is generally known. So I think he's not new in politics. So I'm sure he's going to get some sizable votes, 1%, 2% thereabout, and it might come handy when the results come and the coalition partners are being sought. So, but there is also another new player who came in. I think his name is Songezo Sibi. He's fairly new, but I think he has been well funded. Because of that, his visibility in Gauteng and Western Cape and other provinces, I think it was a shocker to so many people, and some were even questioning where he got the money from. So I think because of that, his name might also appear closer to my money thereabout, and other small parties. So yes, the small parties are going to come handy Thursday, Friday, there. When I think towards the weekend there when they announce the results are coming in. But I really want to talk about Malema because I think you have spoken about Malema, and I want to quote this. Most people, when they talk about EFF, one of the key things they talk about, and my leader Truss has repeated it correctly, so that land question is the top of their agenda. But I think most people, what they do is they quote that EFF want to appropriate land without compensation, and then they end there. But actually, if you look at their manifesto, and I'm going to read just 3 lines of their manifesto, and then I'll explain why it might not be in the best interest of South Africa or any other nation at all. So they say EFF government its approach to the resolution of the land question will continue to be anchored on the principle of appropriation of the land without compensation for equal redistribution and use. So far, so good. So far, so good. And then they said, and for the state to be the custodian of all land in South Africa. Now, for me, if you want to, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Go ahead. I'm just
okay. If you want to kill a nation, the most immediate way is to take away land from any landowner, because the moment you do that, you kill the land market. And then, if you want to kill investment in land, the first thing you do is just take away title and give to the state. So for me, it's one of the most dangerous For any, I'm a development economist, so I'm speaking from that perspective. So for me, if you take land and you give it to the state, what you have done is you have actually made it worse than the current scenario, because the current scenario, at least those few blacks who have land, they own their land. They can invest in their land, and they can pass on their own land to their siblings, to their siblings or their children. But if you take even from the blacks, you take away land from them and say it's given to the state. I mean, how does that become? How does that become an empowerment tool? In my view. So yes, I don't think that it's an empowering policy. It's actually disempowering, and actually can cause massive disinvestment. So that I think for me that's why I wouldn't want to go on and on in some of the issues they are raising, but I think for that only, because it's one of their most popular policy. I don't think it's in line with the investment climate, whether in line with making South Africa prosper. So lastly, yes, in terms of my prediction, because this one is national and provincial, which is regional, my prediction is that ANC definitely will become a raw party. They will not be able to win the votes of the most the richest province, which is Gauteng. They will definitely struggle in Gauteng. They will definitely struggle in KZN, and where the Durban is. They will also definitely struggle in Western Cape, where Cape Town is. They will soon maintain their, like what leader Trust said, they will definitely maintain their raw base. But here is one of the key issues which some people need to take into consideration. Firstly, obviously, when you're a ruling party, you use state power. And then Ramaphosa has done that. He signed the NHI into law recently. Load shedding seems to have tempered a bit, and so forth. So you use state power. But what ANC has done, which I think a lot of parties we have discussed here, they don't have the capacity to do, is to have their top leadership in every province, in every location, walking, literally, apologizing, campaigning. So there is no state, there is no party in South Africa with that capacity to do so. They've really campaigned. For those who have been following, you would also know that even former President Mbeki was in the streets several days, moving from one street to another, campaigning in Soweto, and so forth. What are they trying to do? What they're trying to do is they're trying to bring back their traditional supporters. And I've seen even former Deputy President Mulaba Nuka, she's also in the campaign trail. So what they've tried to do is say they understand that President Zuma is going to take a chance, but what are they're able to maintain, they will definitely maintain. So yes, it will be a fight. They will definitely fall below the 57, 58%. But whether the fall might be below 50%, I don't think so. They might go to 51.2% or so. My prediction is definitely below 55%, but it might be between 52, 53, 54, 55, thereabout. National.
Wow, thank you very much, gentlemen. We are rounding up now to our viewers and listeners across the world. We thank you for being here. We just want to give this gentleman to say their last words, and then we will round up. DJ Prof, you go first. Your last words, 1 minute, and also tell us when you think the results will be out.
Thank you so much. I just want to thank viewers and listeners in all platforms, the way we are broadcasting now live as Change Radio. And my take for the discussion is that I think we have heard it from the people who are, these are Zimbabweans who are in South Africa. We've been witnessing and we've been going trenches and see how ANC and other political parties are behaving or are doing their campaigns, and their prediction based only on that it's not obviously Change Radio predictions, but it's a prediction from the people on the ground that that are giving to you. Yeah. So yeah, also I just want to encourage viewers and listeners to subscribe to our YouTube channel, to our Facebook channel as Change Radio, and like, comment in all the facets that you want to comment. And lastly is that again tomorrow we'll bring I think more two guests to come in and speak to us about the end result, or the end obviously the situation that will be culminating from the end of ballot, the end of election, that is 9 p.m. tonight, and tomorrow night, what has been happening, what are the issues that have been risen, and so forth. But people keeping with us, and we'll be with you as Change Radio. I salute.
I thought DJ Prof was about to say the end when he kept on saying the end. So I thought he was going to say the end of the ANC. And
yeah, no, obviously the results they are expected on the latest date is on the 10th of June. That's when they are expected. That's the end of the day. But obviously they are by obvious tomorrow.
Okay.
Not sure, because one of the things I also saw Julius Malema around 4 p.m. to say there were places that they were going slow. I don't know deliberately or literally, but yeah, they were going slow, and he posted that the ACs seems like they are planning to have a second day election like what happens in Zimbabwe, and he was very worried about that, and he said that's when the rigging is gonna be happening. But hoping that if they finish tonight, every polling station done tonight, because by tomorrow, maybe afternoon, they'll start trickling few results from some few polling station. As I'm seeing now, they are live in Cape Town here, and they are stating that the Cape Town polling station, all of them, they are done. And yeah, so that's where we are now.
Mr. Ndlovu, are we expecting any results to start coming out tonight? Should we look forward to seeing some form of results at least, which would be very remarkable, because we don't get to do that in Zimbabwe. That is, you also give us your closing remarks.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sostre. Right. Yes, according to the plan, according to the reports by the IEC, the results have already been started to be counted. They are starting to count. So we are likely to see results starting to trickle in maybe from midnight going to the early hours of tomorrow. And as the day proceeds tomorrow, we are likely to see more results throughout the weekend, and more analysis, more comments, until the final day of announcement of a full total count. But I want to conclude with the following remarks by saying I want to concur with the Prof. On the issue of the small political parties, the Build One South Africa by Mus Maimane and Herman Mashaba, SA Action. These are parties which have tried, which are going to mean a lot in terms of coalitions. They are going to determine who is going to be the king or the queen in the next parliament, because we all know that parliament will then sit and elect the president. So these small parties are very critical. They will play a critical role in case the ANC does not make 50 plus 1%. And I'm also very interested in the politics of South Africa, especially the electoral process and the outcome. That these political parties, leaders who used to think that the opposition in Zimbabwe they just don't do things in the right way. They will also learn that it is not an easy thing to replace a liberation movement, a party that has been in power for a long time with its established base. It's not going to be easy. I hear Mr. Malema starting to talk about rigging. I mean, feeling like he's likely to be rigged, and it shows that people, they know what the liberation movements are capable of. I'm not saying the ANC is going to rig, but anyone who is in power is likely to do anything to maintain that power. So yes, the other interesting factor or the other aspect that I want to end on is the fact of observers. What the observers will pronounce is going to be very important. It's going to be a benchmark of observation or reports that will be kept for other democracies in Africa, in SADC, and even the world at large. So observers are a critical component of the democratic process in South Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Trust Ndlovu. We appreciate you. Finishing now with Dr. Muganu. I'm jumping because we are going to be having Professor Muganu on Saturday, where we'll be having a very big Twitter space where we'll also talk about South Africa, but we'll also be talking about the ZIG in Zimbabwe. And you gentlemen are invited. Would want to hear what you think about Zimbabwe and also about South Africa. 1 hour will be talking about the ZIG, and we'll also have 1 hour talking about the South African election. We are hoping that on Saturday, by then, the results will be out. So it will be interesting to see you guys coming back and reliving your predictions. You'll be surprised that Malema will be the president of South Africa.
It's possible.
Right. Yes. Mr. Professor Mahembe, to you now. You're watching what is happening. The counting of the votes, I think, is different from what we do in Zimbabwe. If you can comment on that, the transparent around it, and then you also say your closing remarks.
Okay, thank you so much, Mambo, and I really want to appreciate this opportunity to have such a very good discussion. There are some similarities between Zimbabwe and South Africa in the sense that the voting is happening at the polling station, and the counting is also happening at the polling station. So once they've closed, after everyone has voted, they will begin to the counting process. And then after the counting process, then the residue, which is the election residue, will then be carried to a safe place, which I think is the most transparent.
Do they display the results outside?
The display, I'm not sure on that aspect. Yeah, but they also have a mechanism where every party agent is supposed to sign as a confirmation that these results are a true reflection of what is in the ballot boxes. And then after that, what is different is that election center, result center, where everyone is there. The results, as they trickle in, they are projected to everyone. And so I think one day we'll dream of a ZEC being able to do that, where results come directly from polling stations. They are announced as they come without passing through certain offices and so forth. But anyway, hopefully very soon. So my last parting shot, there's an aspect I think I just thought I should highlight. Normally, historically, where we have seen elections before, if there is a very high voter turnout, it does not look very well for the ruling party at that point in time. So I suspect that ANC is going to be hit hard based on what we have observed today. Because usually all these forecasts, they are built up based on the campaign messaging and so forth. But the actual day of voting tells you a different story. So I think the huge voter turnout, especially very good for the ANC from that point. Then lastly, I really want to say there is a lot of things to learn from our South African brothers and sisters. Election is not a war. When the election is put together, announced, it should not. No one deserves to die because of power. We can still differ, EFF there, ANC there, DA there. We can still differ without killing each other. But most importantly, what is important is the will of the people. And I like what the leaders of these parties have been communicating. Some of them will say, yes, I know there is a challenge here, but if the people of South Africa believe that we are not ready, we'll go back and work again. So I think even President Ramaphosa was saying the same thing, to say, we believe we are going to win, but we accept the results. So it is my hope that just across the Limpopo, we are also able to appreciate that one man, one vote is the thing. Democracy is the good thing. If people don't believe in your policies, allow them to mark you down so that you can improve, because that's how we develop. We develop by learning. And if you're a politician, you learn by results. So that's the basic feedback you get as a politician. When people don't vote for you, it means they're not happy. So what do? You fix it. Not to force to be there. Yet people have already said they don't like you, or they don't believe what you are doing is good for them. So let me end here, and I want to appreciate you and all the listeners. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mahembe. We appreciate you. So our viewers and listeners, this is it. It's a Change Radio live production, current affairs, talking about South Africa, focusing specifically on the watershed elections that are ongoing, an election that we have heard from the three gentlemen that are present in South Africa, present on the ground, testifying that it's generally a free, peaceful, and probably will end up a very credible election. And I think we are about to notice a history here. We are about to notice a history here that South Africa, as you heard from the predictions, not my predictions, the ANC may not garner the necessary votes to have a 2/3 majority in the in this election, and therefore we can witness a first coalition government in South Africa, a power sharing agreement in South Africa. And as you heard the gentleman saying here, that will have a direct impact on the Zimbabwean political scenario, because you know that South Africa's ANC have been bankrolling or supporting the ZANU-PF regime. Otherwise, ZANU-PF would have gone a long time ago if it was not for the great supporter that they are having from ANC. So the disappearance from ANC, which is what most people are looking forward to, but which is what the gentlemen here have been saying is next to impossible. Would see maybe another player coming in, maybe Malema. You can imagine what will happen if Malema is president of South Africa. He will not tolerate any nonsense that is going on in Zimbabwe, or if it becomes Mahembe, or if it becomes the DA. Of course, we are not sure if it happens to be Umkhonto weSizwe that ends up romping to victory, as Mr. Ndlovu said here. Umkhonto weSizwe and ANC it's 6 and 9. They're just the same. There is no difference. But yes, Zimbabweans will watch closely, and Change Radio will keep you updated. Tomorrow we'll be having another program again, and these gentlemen, we are going to invite them to join us on Saturday, where we are going to have a big Twitter space discussing South African elections and also discussing the zig in Zimbabwe. We will not just focus on South Africa. We also have our issues to take care of in Zimbabwe. And of course, we also, in the next few days, will also be focusing on SADC. SADC. We know what is about to happen in Zimbabwe. Emmerson Mnangagwa is about to be made chairman of SADC. Should we remain quiet as Zimbabweans? We are saying no as the citizens. We need to do something about that. And I understand some Zimbabweans have already started doing something about that, and we encourage them to do more. Thank you so much, Zimbabweans from all over the world. We appreciate you. Please continue to support Change Radio. Like, share this video, and also subscribe to Change Radio so that we can continue to do the work that we are doing. Thank you, Dr. Mahembe. Thank you, Mr. Trust Ndlovu, the former CC chairperson in South Africa. And thank you, our very own DJ Professor, who is joined us from Cape Town. Goodbye for tonight. We'll see you in other programs tomorrow.
Thank you so much, and God bless.
Thank you.
Wakanaka chese tinohuda nyika yedu yakazara uchine mukaka